Hi, this session will talk about bones which are present in our skull or cranium. Skull or cranium protects our brain. This is the hardest structure formed by eight flattened bones, cranium or skull. It is made up of eight flattened eight flattened bones. What are those? Eight flattened bones are frontal bone, frontal bone, parietal, parietal bone, temporal, temporal bone, occipital bone. Next, sphenoid bone. Another one, ethmoid bone. Next one is the warmers. Next one, mandible. These are the eight bones which are participate in the formation of in the form of cranium or skull. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Eight bones are present. Frontal bone, parietal bone, temporal bone, occipital bone, sphenoid bone, ethmoid bone, warmers, and mandible. These are the eight flat-ended bones. By the sutures, they attach each other. They attach together. They attach the together. Frontal bone forms forehead, forehead, and all the orbits, orbits of all the orbits of anterior, posterior, anterior part, anterior of the skull, all the orbits of anterior parts of the skull. That is a frontal lobe. Next, parietal lobe forms the uh, upper portion of the skull. So that is the parietal bone. So mostly these cerebrum cerebrum is protected by the parietal bones, temporal bone, sides of our sides of mostly covered by the sides of our cranium by the temporal bone. Parietal lobe is uh, anterior, the upper portion of skull, superior part of the skull. Next one is the occipital bone is a posterior base of skull, this is the through this hospital bone only, through this hospital bone only, the medulla oblongata through the foramen of magnum will comes out from the cranium. This is hospital bone. Sphenoid bone is the keystone bone. It is present middle middle of base middle of the base of skull, middle base of skull. Next one is ethmoid bone is the midline posterior part of cranium. This warmers forms the two triangular bones forms the nasal cavity. Nasal forms nasal cavity. Mandible is the largest and strongest only movable bone of our skull. Eight flattened bones are present: frontal bone, parietal bone, temporal bone, occipital bone, sphenoid and ethmoid, and warmers and mandible. Frontal lobe forms the so anterior part of our skull, anterior forehead, and all the orbits which are present anteriorly. Parietal bones is the upper parts of our skull. So most sides are formed by the temporal. It accommodates the temporal lobes. Hospital bones, this is a posterior part of the base of the skull through the foramen magnum. Foramen magnum is present in the hospital bone only. Sphenoid bone is the keystone. All the bones articulates the with the sphenoid bone. Sphenoid. That's why this is called keystone bone of the skull. It is the mid base of our skull. Ethmoid bone, midline of the posterior part of the cranium. Next, warmers are the triangular shaped structures, and mandible is the strongest, largest, which is the movable. This is called jaw. This is the movable upper jaw and lower jaw. This is the mandible. Okay, this is about the bones which are present in our skull. Okay, thank you.